I might have to go upstairs and tell my kids to go into another room.
We're
Don't
live.
even worry about it.
It's totally. Basically, what I heard you say, Nick, is the kids are playing Fortnite and it's taking up all the internet.
That's exactly what it was, Josh.
That's what I heard. That's what I just heard.
So good.
Oh, I forgot.
So good.
Hold on.
All right. For those of you joining us on the webinar side, let us know what city and state you're from. We got a few hundred people on, and now we're live on Facebook. So let's get this.
If we're live on Facebook, I'm just staying put.
As we're waiting for Nick here. Nick's Nick's a traveling man in his house.
No, I'm staying put because I'm not gonna be able to get my kids to go somewhere else. So
don't even worry about it.
You can't interrupt the Fortnite. Come on, you cannot interrupt the Fortnite.
With my grainy,
can't kick him off the game right in the middle of it.
No.
All right, this is exactly how our last webinar with Josh started, where we were in the middle of a conversation about Star Wars.
So I'm the problem. I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Damn it. All right, let's get this party started. Nick, let's test out your audio and go ahead and intro Josh.
Oh,
all right, let me know if anyone can. Let me know if you guys can hear me. All right, because
it's in and out, but we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. Hey everyone, it's Lab Coat Agents. I'm Nick. That's Tristan. I'm
dude,
Nick.
You sounded like an 80-year-old guy. Come on.
And the guy that needs no introduction, the president of Keller Williams Realty, the man, the myth, the technology legend, Josh Team, everybody.
You're kind.
Round of applause.
Now that awkward thing is over.
Thanks for being here, buddy. It's been so long since we've seen you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You guys have been doing some awesome stuff. I appreciate the invite.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it, man. Well, this time we wanted to do something a little different because we've always talked about Keller Williams, about where it's going, about all the good stuff that they're doing. And we wanted to start off this one to really get to know you a little better, because I don't even know your background, man. And I think a lot of people don't know your background either.
Oh, okay.
So
awesome.
Let's talk about all the video games you play, what you I'm joking.
Exactly.
Let's go back. Let's go back to towards the beginning of when you started in the whole tech world. How did you get started in the tech world, and what initially sparked your interest in that space?
So it's actually an interesting story. When I was younger, so I'm an only child, and my dad was a salesman. My mom was a waitress. And so I have a very blue collar life. And, but because my dad has sales jobs, we were somewhat mobile and we moved a lot. And so two things kind of happened. One, as an only child, you live in your head a lot. Like you have become very creative because you have to. And, so I really enjoyed creating things. My dad took me to half price books when I was like 12 years old, and I could get any book I wanted. And I have no idea. I take this back. Sorry, the important step. So we moved a lot, an only child, but that was actually when like these chat rooms were getting popular in Yahoo chat rooms, things like that. And so I found that there's this group of people that no matter where city I was in or what school I was going to, I could talk to the same group of people. And actually that became like my community, if you will. And that was like an anchoring thing and for me. And that day, when you first joined Yahoo chat rooms, they would randomly put you in a room. Like you would just randomly go to a room. And the random room that I was put in was a web design one. It was just like a web design group. It was just what I randomly got put into.
Random.
And so I just started like talking to these people and all that, and they were cool people, and they had their own websites, and I was like so amazed that these people had their own websites. And I said, how do I make a website? And they said, you have to learn HTML. And so then my birthday came up. My dad took me to half price books, and I could get any book I wanted. And there was this book on the shelf, HTML, the official guide to HTML. And so I wanted to buy that book. And so I bought that book. I read it. I made my own web page when I was like 12 or 13. And I got hooked. The idea that I could think of something, I could put things on a keyboard and do things. And so that started my journey of coding. And and ever since then, every subsequent Christmas and birthday, I would ask for money, and I would ride my bike down to Half Price Books, and I'd buy used computer programming books, and I just loved it. I loved being able to. It was the only time, because remember, think about when you're like 12 and 13 years old, and there was no rules in the computer languages. There was no. I didn't need money. I didn't need permission. I didn't have to have like supervision from adults. Like whatever I could think about in my head, I could go create. And that was really interesting to me. And I really enjoyed that journey.
Were you ever a Legos kid?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I built trains, I built Legos, anything where I could go sit in a space and create things in my head and then make them come real. Like I did. I still love that. Like that's absolutely like a thing that I really enjoy.
Dude, that's awesome. One of our viewers here said, Lori, I'm just gonna say your name because it's funny. Lori says, "Lucky, Yahoo threw me into a gaming group. Instead of building a career, I dumped thousands of dollars into games." That was
Dude, life roulette.
So
Yahoo is setting the trajectory of humans in the random chat assignments. Yes.
I remember, Tristan, you probably remember because, we're a little older than Josh, but we were in like the Prodigy chat rooms, like before the Yahoo chat rooms. Like that was way back in the day when it was like $4 a minute or $4 an hour. My parents had to say, okay, you get 1 hour a day to go into chat rooms. Crazy how things have completely changed. So you're an only kid, so you had kind of all the time to just get involved in just building stuff, right? So HTML, Legos, and a lot of times you talk about, I'm glad you brought up Legos, you talk about the technology that we're building with KW. You mention Legos a lot, actually. Like you bring up the Lego building blocks and you compare it to technology. Can you give us a little bit of an insight to how you correlate the two?
Sure. And just for clarity, the Legos were more like in the 5 or 6 year old Josh version, and then when I got older, I became more into the programming stuff. But
I still use those, Josh.
hey, I got two little kids, and I'm all into the Legos now for sure. Again, I'm building trains again, and sometimes I find myself doing it more for me, no doubt. But so to answer your question though, so here's where the talk about the Lego analogy that I use. This is where I believe the opportunity exists in all technology, and I know this is something that this community, Lab Code Agents, you guys pioneered this stuff. Like you guys are a community of people across different brokerages and flags and banners who talk about what works and what combination of things work. Because what you guys fundamentally understand, and what your community fundamentally understands, is that there's not a one size fits all. Real estate businesses are so unique, and how they're operating and how they work. And so instead of trying to go out and we're going to build the ultimate end all be all by ourselves solution, the premise that we took, which was a different premise, was, and then I think something that Apple did very cleverly, and we were inspired by that, which is, let's build an operating system. And then let's build some of our own Legos that we think people are saying they want. And then let's invite other partners to come and introduce their Legos. And then every agent can come and assemble their combination of things that work for them so that they can run their business effectively, versus this is the one solution. You have to do it this way. Everyone will do it this way. And this is how it works. That usually only works for about 20% of the people. 80% of people say that doesn't work for me for this reason or that reason. And so the idea was, let's deconstruct the technology down to its fundamental Legos so that every agent could reconfigure that as it makes sense for their business.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that analogy when you bring that up. So let's get into a little bit more about Josh. So for those of you just joining us, we're getting to know Josh a little bit more. Then we'll get into some tech stuff. So aside from Keller Williams, obviously, you worked your way up in the company, well deserved, of course. But what would you say your biggest accomplishment and your proudest moment in the technology world has been kind of up until this point, before your KW days?
So, man, that's a tough question. I've been blessed in that I've gotten recognition, sometimes earned, sometimes, to be honest, not as earned. Sometimes when, even now, that I've got a really amazing team. And so I'm prefacing what I'm about to say with this fact. and it's kind of like a quarterback of a football team. Because of my role and position, I get a lot of accolades, and sometimes, the buck stops with me, which means sometimes I get credit for what the smart people on my team do that I didn't necessarily do. And so that's been a true, a long part of my career. Like, I get to work with some really amazing people who do some really awesome work, and I'm just a part of the team. And so I want to be very mindful of acknowledging that, because some of these accolades, weren't just Josh's team. When I was just starting, like I said, getting into programming, when I was like 14 or 15, I don't remember exactly how old I was. I was one of the top open source contributors in the Texas community for some very big projects. And that's probably when I started to separate myself from the hobbyist programmer or contributor to more of a, getting into a different community of people that are, take it a little more serious, I guess. I was featured in Home Business Connection, was a magazine that did a cover of me when I was 14. That was weird, having like magazine people come out and interview and photograph the family. Because remember, my mom's a waitress. Here's a funny story. My mom's a waitress. My dad's runs a small sales team for a small family-owned business. And so we're very blue collar guys. Like, we just moved into our first home out of an apartment complex. I go door to door selling candy to pay for my cleats and my football gear, because we don't have the cash to do that. And one day, then these checks started showing up to me for thousands of dollars. And my mom. I mean, I'm like 14, so my mom's like opening my mail, right? Clearly. And there's these checks from these people across the country for thousands of dollars. And that created a lot of concern, because I'm on the internet a lot, and there's these people sending me money. And what was happening was I was actually doing commissioned work to do projects like websites and things like that. And so I'd created some traction, if you will, in being able to do those kind of projects for people. And so the magazine did a story on that, and that was kind of cool for the family. Some of my proud, so that's more like them being recognized as a contributor in the whole community, getting that stuff at an early age. And I got to work with teams. So I've won a lot of awards, like most innovative person of Business Insider. But again, that's kind of weird, because I worked with a big team, and so the team was always pushing us forward and things like that. The projects I've gotten to work on are probably what I'm most proud about. And I was an instrumental strategist on the team around when the banks were being challenged by the credit unions, and how do we go and create deeper relations with our consumers. And we ended up going to tech on that. If you've gone to AMC movie theaters and used the Stubs program, I was an architect behind that. If you've used the Best Buy Reward Zone program, I was a part of that team. If you've used a Hilton and Hyatt, their points on and how they do that, and how they track that, and how they integrate that with other hotels, I was a part of that team. So I've gotten to work with some big, Fortune 50 companies on big scale projects to create better experiences, to create business value. And I'm been very blessed to have those opportunities, and I'm proud to be able to say that me and my team were able to impact how people do business at those things. It's exciting to me.
Dude,
That's awesome.
I love that. Which is a perfect transition into this next question, which is when the hell did you get the Gary Keller call? Like, how was that, and how did you feel?
Hey, call that guy who does hotel tech.
Well, so that actually, the way that happened was I had just received an award for being one of the 30 most creative people in the country under the age of 30 by Business Insider. And it was because some of my work on those on the projects I just mentioned. And that list made it to Keller Williams, and I think we're just calling down the list and seeing if there's any good fits. So when we actually started having a conversation with Keller Williams, and for anyone that's in your community that's part of Keller Williams, they know the CV process is no joke. We started the CV process. The thing that was so exciting to me, the thing that I got really excited about is, remember, I was working with the Fortune 50 companies, and the big companies, by definition, love the status quo. status quo made them rich and big. So what
Right.
what organizations do without even thinking about it, it's just built into the culture of enterprise, is they defend attacks. So companies build themselves to ensure that they can't be attacked from competition, from market conditions. Like everything they're doing is ensuring that they defend the status quo by definition, because they built the status quo, which made them successful. Does that make sense on its face?
Yeah.
And so what 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 happens is the people with all the money and the people with all the market share are usually trying to disrupt the disruptor because they don't want the status quo to go away. So this is where you see Exxon buys out the intellectual rights for the electric car because they don't want oil to be compressed. They like this is why Polaroid tried to delay digital, and they actually did. They were successful in delaying digital photography for about 5 years until Apple and these other people came around. I probably shouldn't credit that to Apple, but that's the idea. That's the premise. What was so interesting to me, and something I'd never seen before, is with Gary and Keller Williams, was for someone who had market share and had size and was winning in the status quo, to have such an appetite and ambition to reimagine it and reinvent it. Typically, the only people that want to challenge the status quo are people who need to change the status quo to be successful. Right? That's usually how that works. And so to have a company that had market share, that had capital, that had there was winning, to say we want to reinvent ourselves so we can continue winning at a higher and greater margin for our people. I had never experienced in that, and I realized in that moment that this was a once in a lifetime opportunity that I needed to be a part of, and so we started our journey together.
I love that, man.
Yeah. So essentially, awesome. Like KW, and you hear this all the time. You have to put yourself out of business every day to keep going, right? And so in order to do that, you might have to like change the way you've normally been doing things, and that kind of leads us to the next question. So when they called you and they were like, hey, we want to build our technology, did they know what they wanted to do, or did they bring you in and mastermind around the idea for Command? Like, how did Command come about? Was it always going to be masterminding with the agents, or did they not have any idea about how they wanted to build it or what they wanted it to be before you came in?
So I want to be mindful about how much I say. People,
yeah, I mean,
yeah, I hear that. So here's what I'll say is that I love this question because Command was never on the table at the beginning, and I actually tried like heck to not build Command. So I'll actually walk you guys through the behind the scenes journey. You want the unmiked Josh?
We want to build we want to build tech from the ground up. Oh my God, really? Oh,
no. No. So here's actually how that conversation went. It was all about the consumer. Make no mistake about it. It was all about the consumer. So we want to create better consumer experiences. Period. We want to go create the better experience around scheduling showings, visiting homes, getting smarter about what you like and don't like. The transactions should be simpler. Everything we want to do, our biggest ambitions are all about the consumer experience. What happened is when we started to do the analysis about putting that plan together. So we have a whole thesis. I literally have a 20-foot rollout paper, and you've seen this, Tristan and Nick. You've seen this on the wall in our mastermind room that lays out our end game. We have our end game consumer journey that we're marching on played out, and we feel very strong that that's still the right end game. Here's the challenge.
I should have taken pictures of that and spread it all over. I didn't know.
Yeah. Here's the challenge that we have, though, that every real estate company has. That the agent's operating system is their CRM. The way that the agent communicates and manages their deal flow is with the technologies that they pick. So the agent technology is the limiting factor on the consumer experience that they can deliver. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
And so if let's just say we went and we built, let's just say that this is there we go. Let's just say this is the most amazing technology that we want to give consumers. We want to give them the remote control for real estate. Okay. And we went and invented that and built it. And then let's say that we wanted to give it to all of our agents to give their consumers. Here's the problem. The agent goes, yeah, but I already have my own website. So how do I get that remote control on my website? Well, I gotta go talk to your vendor. Who's your vendor? Well, if you do that across 160,000 agents, it's going to be 1,000 vendors. Okay, well, I also it has to hook into my CRM. Well, what CRM do you use? I'll go talk to them. Well, it's going to be across another 1,000 CRM vendors. And what you quickly realize is we could create the most amazing value for the agent consumer. We can't distribute it because the agents are all working with these different partners that are incentivized to charge you more money for this thing. Their goal is not to, man, I'm sorry about that. I'll stop doing that. Their goal is to not give you a remote control inside their experiences. Their goal is to monetize the platform, and they want to add as much value as possible. So when you realize that, you go, well, darn, how are we going to create this value to reinvent the consumer experience for the agent? And you leave yourself going, we've got to be the operating system that they're using so that when we do things, it can distribute out to the consumer. And I remember making a joke. I remember I looked at Gary when we did this analysis, when we came up with it, we said, well, darn it, we have to go build the one piece of technology that everyone hates, their CRM. That's the truth. Like, we're doing it as a necessity. We had to build it as a necessity. And what happened on that journey, though, when we decided to do that, and that's why we said, well, look, we don't want to be an expert on all things CRM. We learned very quickly through our labs process. There's 1,000 flavors of CRM. We knew that what we had to do is create the Legos so that everyone could assemble their CRM as it makes sense to them. And we had to do that through a collaborative fashion. Otherwise, we wouldn't get agents to use it. And if we don't get agents to use a CRM, I haven't fixed the problem of being able to create real value to give to their consumers and redefine that experience. Does that make sense at a high level?
That makes total sense, dude. So then take us through the process, because once you decided, okay, we're building out this CRM, right? We're building out this tech. And then you take it one step further and say, well, you know what? We have another insane idea. Why don't we build labs and then have the agents tell us what to build? And what happened there?
Get the opinion of all the agents in our company and ask them what they want, because
it seems kind of nuts, man. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And rightfully so, people had strong opinions about this strategy, and I got to read a lot of people tell me how stupid I am. and that's always fun.
But you've gotten used to that, right? It happens every day. So
I'm usually the one thumbing them up, saying, yeah, probably shouldn't have done that. But here's the premise. Here's the premise of that. If ultimately we need our agent community to embrace this, to use it so that we have the ability to distribute it, like I just said before, then we have two paths. We can go off in a corner and design it and then ship it to them. But the problem with that is when I did all the analysis on this, Realty tried this with Zap, the Zap platform, and it failed miserably. And I'm not saying that about Realty. I'm not saying that about the platform. I don't know the details of that. It just wasn't successful. Compass did that, and they had to send an apology letter out. Remax tried that. We had tried that before with eEdge, and the truth is none of those projects were massively successful. So if you now know that path has a high likelihood of not being successful, you've got to come up with a new path. And if you know that you're building I say this now all the time, if you're building the first rocket ship, how do you know how long it will take? How do you know, like, you don't know what you don't know yet? You're building the first one. And so because of that, we decided that we were, the strategy was the only way to do this was to have the most transparent development roadmap that the industry's ever seen. And we will hold ourselves accountable on a weekly basis to deploy code, right, wrong, or indifferent. And we will go on this journey together. And what we said was that means that there's going to be a moment in time when we're going to get a lot of flack. We're going to get a lot of people saying all types of things. But if we have the fortitude, the purposefulness, the grit, the wherewithal to navigate that with compassion, integrity, and transparency, that fire will sharpen our iron, and the distance between us and all of our competition will become so far because no one else will have that fortitude. And so our best competitive advantage is our culture and our ability to have a transparent roadmap, and that our agents hold us accountable on a weekly basis. And as you guys know, 30 to 50,000 agents hold us accountable on a weekly basis. And that makes us better. And it gives us the ability to serve them at the highest level and continuing to improve, not on what another competition does. My favorite part about the labs process is no one compares us to other systems anymore, because we've eclipsed a lot of them in a lot of ways. They hold us to our own standard. We can make this better. We can make this better. And that fire keeps raging on, making the steel harder and harder and harder. And that's the idea.
Hey Josh, one of the realizations I had about the power of the platform was when the company released the app, W app, it had features that other portals didn't have. Other portals like Zillow and Realtor. And then within weeks, we saw Zillow then adding features to their app that we had. And then we would add another feature. Zillow would add that feature. Then we had another feature, and then Zillow. So we're ahead of Zillow. And I can give two examples. The opportunity to add a co-buyer to help you search for properties, and the option to request a digital tour via a live streaming platform. When you guys released those two features, Zillow did it very quickly after. And you always said the beauty of this is you guys want something, we can build it, and it's not going to take a year to do it. We can do it in 90 days, and you've kept to that promise.
Well, that was the pro of the strategy. So again, let's take a couple of use cases. Just again, and again, this is boring. Shut me up, guys. Honestly, but the way that we think of this is, let's take two case studies: Netflix, Blockbuster, Facebook, Google Plus. Both cases, there's an incumbent, Blockbuster and Facebook, and there's in both cases a disruptor. Netflix wants to disrupt Blockbuster. Google Plus wants to disrupt Facebook. What did Blockbuster do to I know this isn't a fully truthful answer. I'm summarizing, so bear with me, the people that are very familiar with the facts. But generally speaking, Blockbuster left Netflix unchecked in the streaming game. Yes, would you agree with that? Generally, they forfeited that when they decided to stop what they were doing and go back and invest in brick and mortars. They basically said, Netflix, we're not going to play that game. We're going to stick to our game. And what ultimately happened?
They were too late to catch up at that point, dude.
That's right. Like when they gave up that ground, Netflix wouldn't run. Now the exact same thing has played out with Facebook and Google Plus. Google Plus was going to go challenge Facebook. They were going to go build their own social media platform. They're going to go do these things, and they launched their new thing, and it had some new features. And Facebook didn't do that. They didn't do what Blockbuster did. They did the opposite. They said, "Look, there's 3 or 4 things that Google Plus just did that's really cool. So let's go do that too." And that's actually how we have the Facebook live streaming you're seeing now was inspired off the Google Plus Hangouts. That came from Google Plus. And here's the aha. And you can benchmark this across every category, every industry. When the incumbent decides to play, the disruptor never gets market share faster than the incumbent can duplicate value.
Dude, can you repeat that, please? Because that's something everybody needs to write down. So that they understand that completely.
It doesn't matter what you're in. If you're the top agent in your area, or you're the disruptor, all of these things. Here's what is played out with every case study. The disruptor has to take your market share. Netflix needs to get people from Blockbuster into Netflix. Google Plus needs to get people from Facebook to Google Plus. The disruptor needs to get your market share. The incumbent needs to duplicate your value so that they keep their market share. So Facebook said, we have a moment in time where we can go create these same features and value, and then people won't need to go to Google Plus because they'll stay here because they're already here. Mm-hmm. Blockbuster had a moment in time to do that too. They decided not to, and they lost the market share. And so here's the rule. The incumbent will it's always easier when the incumbent decides to play. the incumbent will be able to duplicate value faster than the disruptor can take market share. So with this premise being true, back to what you said, Nick, now that we have a platform that has literally, I think in the last 2 or 3 months, we've done, tens of millions of property searches have been done, hundreds of thousands of concurrent users on a daily basis, right? So we have lots of people using our consumer app. We have 50 to 60,000 agents on a weekly basis using our operating system to run their business. And so we now know that makes us in the brokerage and franchise community, if not the largest, one of the largest ecosystems of real estate. When someone does something, we just have to duplicate that value before they take our market share. And we've now demonstrated that on a multiple times, our ability to do that because we have a very transparent and agile, nimble platform that we've gone on.
Dude, that makes total sense, because it reminds me of the story with Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram, where Snapchat had stories and they were going all out, and Instagram and Facebook said, you know what, that's an amazing idea. Let's just duplicate it and go all out on it on Instagram. And all of a sudden Instagram took over on stories, right? So that makes a lot of sense, dude. I love that.
Same thing with the automobile. Imagine Tesla. Imagine if when Tesla was just a startup, if Toyota and Mercedes and all these cars coming out now with electric, if they wouldn't have created their own fleet of electric cars, how much harder is it for Tesla to sell electric cars up through the internet if you could just go to your dealership and buy them? Like this is across every vertical. This is across every industry. The disruptor has to take market share before the incumbent duplicates value.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a couple questions we had, but I want to skip down to one of them that is better fit in this conversation. So what I've always wondered, why brokerages really didn't offer technology or have their own technology at a higher level, right? Like, yeah, they had like bits and pieces and things like that. But why do you think brokerages really didn't offer that at a higher level? And why do you think it took so long for them to then realize, wait, we should start developing technology or acquiring technology and offering this stuff to our agents so they can invest back into their business? Why do you think it took so long for that to take effect?
Well, I mean, I want to say this as respectfully as possible, but I don't think the brokerage community and the franchise community and even ourselves to some part, because we had to change strategies too, acknowledged how important technology was, because it was running the agent's business and was the only mechanism to improve the consumer experience. And so when you ask the question, how can we add value to our agents and associates so they can add more value to consumers, where the world moved on a pretty rapid fashion, technology became really important on that. And what you saw is absent the brokerage and the franchise communities filling that void, the free market did. And that's why you see billions of dollars that came in to invest in products and technology offerings to solve that problem, because the brokerage and the franchise community did decide not to. And it was a problem that needed to be solved. And I think that's just because it moved very quickly. And the who was in the leaders of the industry at that time didn't have a perspective on technology that maybe some of the leaders now have. I think that's just a moment in time conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. We sat there on our hands for 10 years while Zillow continued to gobble up everything, and really no one attempted to do anything until recently. So I always found that to be just interesting. We would stomp our feet and complain about how everything was being sold to them, but at the same time, we weren't developing things that we owned, and we weren't creating an experience for the consumer. Like, Zillow made a great experience for the consumer. There's no doubt about that. 100%. That people love to search on.
Well, I think there were attempts at it, and
there were attempts, but they were huge.
But I think they were approached incorrectly. Right.
The strategies were flawed. Were flawed. And the strategy is that if you try to regulate, I'm a big believer in free markets. So the challenge you have here is that a free market, the consumer will ultimately win. Always. You just got to you got to acknowledge that. And this is the argument I have all the time. People will tell me all the time, vendors often or suppliers will say, look, the real estate commission is going to go down. And I said, you know what? Before I joined the industry, I would have believed that. After being in the industry, I don't agree with that anymore. And the example I give them this all the time. Nice steakhouses are never going out of business. There will always be a cheaper steakhouse. You can, and I, by the way, Chili's was one of my clients for a long time, so I'm not bash on Chili's, but you can always buy steak at Chili's.
You can.
Discount commissions, discount brokerages, discount transactions. There's an appetite for that. The truth is, it's just a small appetite. Most people, when they want a nice steak, are willing to spend a little more money for that quality, that value, that experience. And most people, when they're dealing with the largest real estate transaction of their life, are willing to pay more commission to ensure that experience, the same thing, the quality, peace of mind, the experience. And so I say that is that when I say the consumer ultimately wins, I'm not having a price conversation. I'm saying they want the best experience and they're willing to pay for it, like at a steakhouse. And so here's what we don't want. We don't want Zillow to go define, and not just Zillow, I'm picking on Zillow. We don't want anyone to go define that ultimate steakhouse experience that isn't baked in with the realtor, because fundamentally we believe that the best experience is with a realtor. And this is Zillow's biggest problem. As soon as you want to engage the transaction, you stop. Zillow's like, gotcha, I'm gonna hand it over here. And that's why they're trying to do this call center thing. They're struggling that part of it. We have the biggest advantage, not just KW, but brokerages and the franchises. We're in relationship with the greatest realtors on the planet, who deliver amazing experiences every day. They're eye to eye, they're belly to belly. So all we have to do as the brokerage and franchise community is ask the question, what technology do we need to go build so that they can create the most amazing world-class experience to supplement what they're already doing human to human? And that's our advantage, because Zillow has no path to that. These other people have no path to that. And so the strategy, I think, is who cares who's window shopping on Zillow? Even with Zillow, more people use an agent today than ever before. What's important is once someone wants to have a real estate conversation, how are you going to facilitate that conversation with the best experience, the best knowledge, and do that in a way that you can have a scalable business worth owning? And that's the fundamental question that we have to go solve, and that we're passionate about solving. And once we do that, ultimately, and again, another thing that's really interesting is these. We created the ability to create ads in Command, and the reason we did that is because all Zillow does is Zillow's like one of the, I'm assuming, guys, I don't have insider information, but Zillow is one of the largest probably advertisers on Facebook buying ads. So they're on Facebook buying ads to go to Zillow. When someone clicks a button, they're just charging you $30 to $50 at the lead for that click. It's the same human. It's the same human that was on Facebook. So what we did is we created a platform to make it really easy for agents to put the same type of ad with the same intelligence as Zillow does on Facebook. In the last couple of months, our agents have spent, I think, I don't remember exactly, close to over $1 million just the last couple of months, and they've generated over 1 million leads, or probably right under 1 million. We're around $2 a lead, $1.75, $2 a lead, and so.
Dude, we're just scratching the surface there, because as soon as we level up and go into dynamic ads, that number will easily quadruple or higher, because dynamic ads are insane.
That's right. And what you hear me saying is, well, why can't an agent, if we give them the tools and the platform and the scale for no additional cost, go to the same place Zillow goes to get the leads? Go to create an experience that looks just like Zillow. It has the same return and conversion, and instead of having to wait over there, like, why can't they be their own Zillow? And the truth is they can be. And so the idea is, back to your question about, you're about Zillow, I'm just saying Zillow's going to do what Zillow's going to do, and they're pivoting to iBuyer now, and they're trying to make money, and they've got their own pros and cons, and they have their own business, and wish them best of luck. The aha there for the real estate community should be, that's a consumer experience that works. Find people online, drive them to my website, get them onto my app, nurture and cultivate them, and monetize the person to create a real estate transaction. That works. So let's go do that and give it to every single agent, and let's go and let the best man win.
Totally.
I love that, dude. I love that.
Well, Josh, we talked about how when you build your own tech, you can, add things and pivot things very quickly. And over the last 16 weeks, obviously, a lot of us have been challenged with, the pandemic and so on and so forth. And just being a KW agent, I've seen KW pivot pretty quickly with trainings and so on and so forth. But for those who don't know, how has KW pivoted, their learning and their tech over the last 16 weeks to help agents continue to stay relevant and stay engaged with the company as a whole? What are some of the things that you guys are doing?
We immediately pivoted to creating live stream training, and we actually started doing it, like I think we were doing 25 hours a week, and then we looked at the analytics and said, 2 or 3 hours a day for 5 days a week is the right mix. So we found what the right mix is, and we're hitting like, how do you do a virtual showing? How do you hold a team meeting if you're on a team? How do you do a buying consultation remotely? How do you do listing presentation remotely? Because ultimately our job is to be the leverage for our agent community. And we take that very seriously. So we've been interviewing top agents across the country of how they do this at a high level, and we've been watching what's happening with COVID, and each state has a different nuance that we're working through those. And so it's a whole initiative. We immediately, though, actually called an all hands meeting with my leadership team when this all started happening, and we immediately changed our corporate philosophy, which was our 2020 plans out the window. We're just now the support team for our market centers and agents. And our tech teams started asking the question, what's the one thing we can do this sprint or this dev cycle to add value on this project for agents and consumers in this current climate? Our training team asked that same question. Our marketing team asked that same question. Like, for instance, a small thing, and this is kind of really cool, but one of the things that people loved is that, and again, this just shows how the team's working. And autonomously, the marketing team took that direction. Our head of marketing, Annie Sweat, went and worked with her team. And in our side of we have a designs tool where you can build marketing collateral. They put a coloring book in there, because families and kids like need activities right now, and so it's just small things like that around. Everyone's asking the question, how can we be adding value so that our agents can have human conversations in this time and continue facilitating that, and what can we do at any level to support that? And so we're doing all things like you talked about, creating request virtual showings on the app, updating Command to be support more of these virtual interactions, doing training on that. We have a lot of COVID and how to stay safe marketing stuff in there. So the whole company pivoted on that. The one thing I would say though is I actually think for your community, there's a huge opportunity right now for all realtors. Right now, people are distracted. The economic crisis, the health crisis, the civil crisis, like there's a lot of distractions in the world right now. But we will get through this at some point, and people will have real estate questions, and they're going to ask, like, what did all this do to my home value? Like, that's going to be a real conversation that people are going to want to have. Like, what did this do to I don't like my home anymore. I've been in it too much, or I love my home. What it means for it, and all that's there's going to be real estate conversations that happen. And I think there's an opportunity for us as humans to just reach up, call get in your database, whatever CRM you're using, and just call and say, hey, I came across your name. You're in my system. Maybe we haven't talked or we haven't talked in 5 years, or we talked yesterday, but I just wanted to reach out as a human, as your neighbor, as your friend. How are you doing right now? How you hanging in there? And I think right now, as a society, the more that we can just be kind and loving and reach out and with open heart, that's good. And I think it's a good business strategy right now, because if you're the realtor that's doing that, like my lawyer hasn't called me, my doctor hasn't called me, my accountants haven't called me.
That's right.
Like,
man.
and so if someone were to call me right now and just say, hey, just checking in on you, just you're in my system, how's your family doing? Being affected by COVID. I think that will actually help you build your touches, build your relationships. And on the other side of this, when they want to have a real estate conversation, I think you'll be top of mind. And so I think there's an opportunity right now to both be a good human and to grow a business that way too.
I love that, dude. That's well said. Jason said the exact same thing you said yesterday when I interviewed him, which is beautiful.
Really? That's awesome.
That's really cool. So tell me here, with everything that's happened this year, right? And we're just barely halfway through the year. What's something that we can look forward to Keller Williams doing next? What are you guys most excited about that you can let us know about? Things that you can say, you know what, we're working on this. This is going to be super cool. This is what we're excited about, and we want the world to know about it.
Okay. Even if you can't tell us, nobody's watching. So
and if you can't tell us, go ahead and tell us anyway.
Got it. Actually, yeah. No, I like this. Let me. I'm gonna see if I can actually show you. One thing I'm excited about.
Let me just text Gary and see what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Can I tell them about?
That was good.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So I'm in.
Screen, Tristan, do we need to?
Can you see my screen?
Do you need to? Oh yeah, we're good.
So this is my command. I'm in my smart plans. Smart plans are basically just my my action plans that run automatically for us. So you can come in here and you can build your own. And we've got, and I'll be honest with you, I was surprised how many people built their own. We've already got over 1 million instances of unique smart plans running all this. What's in beta testing right now, and this is actually very similar to what you guys do as a community inside of Lab Code Agents. You guys share best practices with each other to how you get better. We've got a lab of a couple hundred people right now. And we basically, you can share your smart plans. Every agent can share your smart plans with each other. And you can see like this is someone's gone through and built this long automated plan. And we actually are going to be tracking how many people downloaded it, how many days is it, how many touches is it, how many steps is it, and how well did it convert. And you're going to be able to go through here and filter just like you would at Amazon or Apple Store or anything else. Show me I want to see contact smart plans. They last for 0 to 3 months that have 4-star ratings. Do me a favor. Yeah.
Look up my name.
Let's see.
Under author.
I forgot your name.
Right there, filter author.
Can you tell me your name? Oh, that's right, Nick. Sorry.
Right there. Because as a regional tech trainer, I have this feature already. So when it goes live, I just tested it out with a Facebook smart plan.
Oh, there we go. There you are.
Yeah, you got to click.
So six people have done. So again, this is a small beta test, but the idea here is that when we have, again, about 100 people are testing this, and what was so surprising to me is that we've already saw like over 60 plans shared, and there's like each person downloaded 3 or 4 other people doing it. And so the big concept here, right, is that it's one thing for every agent to go build their own smart plans. It's much different when you've got 150,000 people all trying different things. And because we're all on one operating system, we see what does and doesn't work. And we can say, these are the best plans for FSBOs. These are the best plans for Facebook follow-up. These are the best plans for whatever they may be. And then we as a community keep getting smarter. Again, very similar to what you guys inspire here at Lab Code Agents.
Dude, that's pretty sexy. I love that.
Let's say Tristan and I, let's say we write a smart plan, right? And then we publish it to the library. Anyone can go on and search our name and then take our smart plans and import it into their own smart plan library and start using that plan to follow up with leads, sphere of influence, open house, whatever the case may be. So it's just this giant collaborative space.
That's exactly right. And now imagine too, you're doing a training event with you. Imagine you go to Lab Code Agent and for Keller Williams Agents, you guys built the Lab Code Agents follow-up plan, and you give it to them as a value of going to your event, or when they hear you guys talk about something, you say, and you can implement this plan we just talked about by going and hitting that one button. And so this idea now that these training that you're taking in person, you can actually implement in your business with one button push, that we think it has some legs to it. And we continue, like you just said, Nick, to get smarter because we get to see everything. One other really cool thing we're working on right now. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. Tell us.
One other really cool thing, and again, I don't want to show it to you because, as you indicated earlier, there is an arms race happening with the consumer stuff, and so I have to be somewhat cautious because, just like they inspire us, sometimes we inspire them sometimes. But inside of our consumer app right now, the only way agents can really communicate with their clients is with a phone call, a text message, or email, and sometimes social. We're reimagining that, and we've got really good early data on consumers being able to experience it. And I'll just say that we're reimagining, but imagine that the consumer app that you give to consumers that you're branded to you and hooks back to your CRM becomes the #1 way you communicate with them on their terms. It becomes their Netflix. And so when you want to interact with them, whether it's from your phone or from your command, it just shows up seamlessly inside their consumer experience, and you can have one-to-one conversations with them contextually around their real estate experience inside their app. I think the early testing shows you're going to get better open rates than email, higher engagement than everything else. And it's going to be more convenient for the agent than having to navigate 27 different text messages, 17 different emails, and all those types of things. So we're really excited about where that's going.
Dude,
That's so cool. I also want to bring a little bit more clarity because a lot of people are asking about the Smart Plan library. So it's not released yet to everybody. Only regional tech trainers and some other lab people are testing it out. And the one thing that agents have the biggest problem with is follow-up. They don't know what to say, right?
Right.
And so the cool thing about that library is you'll be able to go in and you'll be able to choose a category. Is this Smart Plan for your past clients? Is it for Facebook? You know, who's it for? And then you click that, type in an author if you know who wrote it, choose how long you want the Smart Plan to be, and it'll just bring you all of these options. And agents will be able to give the Smart Plans ratings. So if you see one has 2 stars and the other has 5, you know, now you know that agents are loving it. I just think that that's such a cool
Well, I'll show you exactly.
To have a collaborative.
If I come inside of here and I want to search like, hey, I'm really struggling with how to handle Facebook leads, I can type in Facebook and I can start seeing these are all the plans that people have built on Facebook, and I can see which ones I want, because you might want one that's super unique. And once you download these, you can actually start modifying themselves here too. But to your point, you can come in here and search FSBO, Facebook, door knocking, follow-up, event. Like you can do all types of things and find the use case that'll work for you.
That's going to be pretty amazing, man. All right, so we've got 5 minutes left. What's the one piece of advice that you can give to agents right now to stay ahead with all this pandemic stuff?
Call your database. So we did a study when we first started rolling out Command. I know there's a lot of narrative out there that people talk about who may not be our biggest fans, that we force everyone to use Command. And the truth is that's just not true. And so we actually do a lot of data and studies on how many people are using Command, and then what happened to their business after they used it. And when we first did this, we're like, man, this is so exciting. Everyone that's moving to Command, their business is going up. And we were like, oh yes, we're about to market this, like, yeah. And then like always, we did this across multiple CRMs and make sure, like, look, if you moved from this CRM to that CRM, you didn't get the bump, and you only did it with Command. The truth is, the reason we don't talk about that is because it wasn't Command. But the truth was that moving CRMs makes your business go up. And here's why. When you move the CRM, most of the time you have to update your contacts, update your notes, and people are there's a reason to call. Hey, I'm switching my system. I want to make sure your information is accurate. The touch of calling your database puts you in more contact with more people and gives you more opportunities to do more real estate transactions and have more real estate conversations that generates more commission. So here's the advice. We know empirically, whatever CRM you're using, whatever brokerage you're with, whatever brand you're with, the more times you touch your database and do it with an authentic touch, an authentic conversation, the more money you'll make. And right now, in this crazy time, there's an opportunity for all of us to show up as good humans first. And that's also right now also a touch. And so these aren't mutually exclusive. This isn't a dirty word to just call people in your database and say, hey, I was going through my system. I'm using this time to organize my database. And I just want to call and check in on you as a human. How you doing? How's your family doing? Anything you need, I'm here for you. That will, we know, ultimately lead to more real estate conversations, lead to more real estate transactions, lead to more real estate commissions, and it's just the right thing to do.
Dude, thanks for being
on that note,
man. Thank you.
That's where we gotta end, because it's words of wisdom. You know,
you guys are so kind. I appreciate you guys.
And we got through all of our questions. We got through all of our questions. That's a first for Tristan and I. We usually just like
my job.
Everybody loved your origin story, dude. They loved it.
Everyone's so kind.
Yeah. So Josh, we appreciate you obviously taking the time. You know, you're a busy guy, and you know, we appreciate you and everything you've helped us do, and the collaboration that we have together. It's always been fun. And you're a good friend and always great to talk to you. So thanks for taking the time to jump on with us. Everyone was super excited to hear if comments are blowing up. And it's good that we got to know you like a little bit more, as a person. People want to know about you, how you grew up and what you did. And it's fun,
Well,
Tristan was just telling me he was texting. This is like an origin story.
Origin. I will say we watch you. We at Keller Williams and me personally watch what you guys do at Lab Coat Agents. You guys are awesome, creating a community where people can really share ideas. It doesn't matter what brand they're with, what brokerage there is. Always pushing the boundary forward, making all of us better. So thanks for all the hard work you guys do. Thanks for creating this platform for all of us to learn, myself included, and can keep doing the amazing work. And look forward to talking to you guys in the future.
Thanks, bro.
All right, bye guys.
Thanks, dude. Have an awesome day. Nice to see you.